The gleaming silver ship of the Ricari Dominion hovered silently above Earth's atmosphere. Inside the command center, Commander Deho stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his scaled skin reflecting the blue glow of the control panels. His vertical pupils narrowed as he studied the planet below. "Begin the extraction," he ordered, voice low and measured. "One specimen, preferably isolated." Officer Minsu nodded sharply. "We have located a suitable human. Female. Alone in what appears to be a research facility. Down on Earth, Dr. Una Park yawned and stretched in her small office. The university campus was quiet at 2 a.m., but she preferred working late. Her research on cognitive response patterns during stress had kept her occupied for hours. The coffee had gone cold beside her keyboard. "Just need to finish this section," she muttered to herself, rubbing her tired eyes. Something flickered in her peripheral vision. A strange light outside her window that shouldn't be there. Before she could turn fully, the light intensified, and she felt a strange tingling sensation wash over her body. Then darkness. When consciousness returned, Una found herself lying on a smooth metallic surface. The air smelled strange, sterile, but with an underlying scent she couldn't identify. She kept her eyes closed, her training in psychology kicking in. Listen first. Assess before revealing awareness. Soft beeping sounds. A humming that seemed to come from the walls themselves. And voices, speaking in a language unlike any she had heard before, with clicks and tones that human vocal cords couldn't produce. She felt a light touch on her wrist. Not fingers, but something cool and slightly rough. Staying perfectly still took all her willpower. "The specimen shows normal vital functions," said a voice in heavily accented English. They had some kind of translator. "Brain activity suggests she will regain consciousness soon." "Excellent," replied another voice. "The High Council will be pleased with our selection. This one works in a knowledge facility. Her mind should contain valuable information." Una fought to control her breathing. Aliens, actually aliens, and they had abducted her. But instead of panic, she felt a curious sense of professional interest. Their speech patterns, their assumptions, all revealed so much about them. "Prepare." "The interrogation chamber," the second voice continued. "We must learn about their defenses before the main fleet arrives." Footsteps moved away. Una risked opening her eyes slightly. Through her lashes, she saw a tall humanoid figure with pale blue skin and a ridge of scales down the back of its hairless head. It wore some kind of uniform with symbols she couldn't decipher. When the room emptied, she opened her eyes fully and quickly sat up. She was in a small cell with transparent walls on 3 sides. Beyond was a larger laboratory filled with equipment, both recognizable and utterly alien. She was wearing the same clothes as before, jeans and her university sweatshirt, but her phone and watch were gone. "Interesting," she whispered, studying the cell's design. No visible door. The transparent material looked like glass but felt warmer when she touched it. The ceiling emitted a soft light with no visible source. Soon, 3 aliens entered the lab. The tallest wore an elaborate uniform with more markings than the others. He studied her with unblinking yellow eyes. "I am Commander Deho of the Ricari Dominion," he said, his mouth moving strangely around the unfamiliar words. "You are now under our authority. Cooperation will make this process less uncomfortable." Una stood calmly, meeting his gaze. Instead of showing fear, she smiled slightly. "I'm Dr. Una Park," she replied. "I specialize in cognitive psychology and interrogation resistance techniques. You've made quite an interesting selection." The aliens exchanged glances, clearly surprised by her composure. "Your species is known for its emotional responses," said a female alien in scientific attire. "You display unusual control." Science Officer Jisoo, Commander Deho, said sharply, "Do not engage with the specimen unnecessarily." Una noted the interaction, storing away the power dynamic she observed. "I have questions if you don't mind," she said pleasantly. "Your translation technology is fascinating. How does it adapt so quickly to unfamiliar languages?" The commander's eyes narrowed. We will ask the questions. Of course, Yuna replied, sitting back down on the examination table. But you should know that humans are quite resilient to stress-induced information extraction. Our minds tend to fabricate false information under duress. As they led her from the cell toward another room, Yuna carefully observed everything: the layout, the technology, the way the crew interacted. While they thought they were preparing to interrogate her, she was already gathering information, finding weaknesses and formulating a plan. The Ricari had made their first mistake. They had abducted someone who understood exactly how interrogation worked, from both sides. The interrogation room gleamed with polished metal surfaces. Yuna sat at a simple table bolted to the floor. A single light shone from above, leaving the corners of the room in shadow. She noticed small devices embedded in the walls, probably recording equipment or sensors. After 10 minutes of waiting, a common tactic she recognized from her own research, the door slid open. A new Ricari entered, taller than Commander Tejo, with darker blue skin and ceremonial markings down the sides of his face. I am Chief Interrogator Tewan, he announced, taking the seat across from her. This process will be simpler if you answer truthfully. Yuna nodded pleasantly. I understand. I'll help however I can. Her calm response seemed to unsettle him. He had clearly expected fear or resistance. Tell me about Earth's defense systems, Tewan demanded. I'm afraid I don't know much about that, Yuna replied honestly. I'm a psychologist at a university. Military information isn't my specialty. Tewan's eyes narrowed. Your kind compartmentalizes knowledge? Inefficient? Actually, specialization is quite efficient, Yuna countered. It allows for deeper expertise in specific areas. Your translation algorithm, for instance, it's remarkable but has several inconsistencies in tonal reproduction. The interrogator blinked rapidly, what Yuna was beginning to recognize as a sign of surprise. We are not here to discuss our technology, he said firmly. Of course. What would you like to know that I might actually help with? Tewan pressed a button on his wrist device. A three-dimensional image of Earth appeared floating above the table. Your major population centers, their vulnerabilities. Instead of answering directly, Yuna studied the projection. Your mapping technology is extraordinary. The detail is impressive. Do you use quantum scanning? Answer the question, Tewan said, his voice hardening. Did you know that human brains have evolved to ask questions when presented with new information? Yuna replied conversationally. It's a natural cognitive response. By the way, I notice your ship maintains a gravity similar to Earth's. Is your homeworld comparable? Tewan frowned. Our homeworld has 1.2 times your gravity. Many species find our ships uncomfortably heavy, but you seem adapted well enough. He caught himself. Stop redirecting. Tell me about your world's leadership structure. It varies by region, Yuna explained. Some places use democratic systems, others are more authoritarian. Your ship seems to have a clear chain of command. Is Commander Tejo the highest authority on board? Tewan's scaled ridges flattened. Another emotional tell Yuna filed away. Commander Tejo answers to Fleet Admiral Han Jun, who remains with the main fleet, he said before catching himself again. You are employing basic counter-interrogation techniques. They will not work. Yuna smiled. You're very observant. I appreciate directness. Would you mind if I asked how you selected me specifically? Pure chance? The door slid open and Science Officer Jisoo entered with a small device resembling a silver crown. The neural scanner is ready, she announced. Excellent, Tewan said. The human's resistance techniques are proving tedious. Yuna eyed the device with genuine curiosity. Neural scanning? Does it work across species with different brain structures? Jisoo looked at her with interest. It adapts. The principle of electrical impulses in neural tissue is universal enough. Fascinating, Yuna replied. In my research, we use functional, magnetic resonance imaging, but it's much bulkier. Science Officer, Tewan warned, do not engage in technical discussions. Jisoo placed the device on Yuna's head. It felt cool against her skin, tiny prongs making contact with her scalp. "This won't damage your brain permanently," Jisoo assured her, "though you may experience discomfort." "I appreciate your concern," Yuna said sincerely. As the device activated, she asked, "Does your species have a concept similar to our scientific ethics? The principles governing research on sentient beings?" Jisoo hesitated before answering. "We have the protocols of balanced exchange. Knowledge gained must justify methods used." "Silence," Taewon ordered. "Activate the scanner at full capacity." "Full capacity may cause neural inflammation in an untested species," Jisoo objected. "The fleet admiral wants information quickly," Taewon snapped. Yuna noticed the tension between them. "Perhaps start at lower intensity," she suggested calmly. "I'm willing to cooperate. Damaging your research subject seems counterproductive." Taewon stared at her, then grudgingly nodded to Jisoo. "Begin at standard levels." The device hummed. Yuna felt a tingling sensation across her scalp. "Focus on Earth's defensive capabilities," Taewon instructed. Yuna deliberately thought about her university campus, the peaceful quad where students gathered. She visualized her classroom, her research papers. "She's blocking somehow," Jisoo said, sounding impressed. "She's directing her thoughts." "Impossible," Taewon growled. "Increase intensity." As the tingling grew stronger, Yuna maintained her focus on mundane memories. 3 hours later, when they finally removed the device, Taewon was visibly frustrated. "We will continue tomorrow," he announced. As guards escorted her back to her cell, Yuna caught Jisoo watching her with undisguised curiosity. "You have impressive mental discipline," the science officer whispered. Yuna simply smiled. Day 1 had gone exactly as she'd planned. They still had no useful information, while she had learned about their technology, their command structure, and most importantly, the divisions among her captors that she could exploit. Yuna sat quietly in her cell, eyes closed, seemingly resting. In reality, her mind was busy organizing everything she had learned over the past 3 days. The Ricari ship held approximately 200 crew members. Their technology relied heavily on quantum computing, and most importantly, there was clear tension between the military and scientific divisions. The cell door slid open. A young female guard entered with a tray of food. "Your nutrition," she said flatly. "Thank you, Officer Youngmi," Yuna replied, with a warm smile. The guard looked startled. "How do you know my name?" "I heard Commander Daeho address you yesterday. You have an excellent memory for detail. I noticed you corrected the environmental settings in the interrogation room without being asked." Young Mi's posture stiffened, but Yuna could see a hint of pride in her eyes. "The commander expects perfection." "That must be challenging," Yuna said gently. "Do all the military personnel report directly to him?" "To their section leaders who report to him," Young Mi answered, then frowned. "I should not discuss ship operations." "Of course not," Yuna agreed. "I'm just curious about your culture. On Earth, military and scientific communities often have different approaches to problem solving." Young Mi hesitated. "It is similar here. Science Director Jin Ho has different priorities than Commander Daeho." "That makes sense," Yuna nodded. "Researchers need freedom to explore ideas, while military operations require clear chains of command." "Exactly," Young Mi said, her professional reserve cracking slightly. "The science division thinks we're too rigid, but structure is necessary for security." "Both perspectives have value," Yuna said. "By the way, these meals are perfectly balanced. For human nutrition, someone did excellent research." Young Mi looked pleased. "That was my assignment. I studied your world's nutritional science." "Impressive work," Yuna said sincerely. After Young Mi left, Yuna examined her food tray more carefully. The utensils were made of a soft, flexible material, safe for a prisoner. But the edge of the tray itself had a thin metal rim. Perfect. In the ship's command center, Fleet Commander Sun Wu reviewed the interrogation recordings with growing frustration. 5 sessions and we've learned nothing useful about Earth's defenses, he growled. The human is unusually resistant, Taewon explained. She redirects questions and exploits our procedural protocols. Science Director Jin Ho stepped forward. Perhaps we should try my approach. Build trust rather than force compliance. Sun Wu's scaled ridges flared in annoyance. Your gentle methods waste time we don't have. The Dominion expects results. Security Chief Yunji, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. The human is gathering information about us. She's identifying power structures and relationships among the crew. Impossible, Taewon scoffed. She's contained and monitored. Yet she knows things, Yunji insisted. She addressed Officer Young Mi by name without introduction. She referenced the disagreement between Commander Daeho and Science Director Jin Ho during yesterday's session. An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. She's a psychologist specializing in information extraction, Jin Ho reminded them. We may have severely underestimated her capabilities. That evening, as Yuna was escorted to another interrogation session, she noticed subtle changes. Guards now stood in pairs. Conversation stopped when she approached. They were becoming wary. Good. She needed them off balance. Taewon waited in the interrogation room with a new device, smaller than the neural scanner but with ominous blinking lights. Today we use the memory extractor, he announced. No more evasions, Yuna sat calmly. I've been wondering about your ship's power systems. The consistent hum suggests fusion technology, but there's a subtle pulse every 17.3 seconds that suggests something more advanced. Taewon paused. How could you possibly know that? Simple observation, Yuna replied. Humans have evolved to notice patterns. It helped us survive predators. I've been counting that pulse for days. Do you use zero-point energy modules? That is classified information. Taewon snapped, clearly rattled. Just making conversation, Yuna said pleasantly. By the way, has Commander Daeho resolved his disagreement with Science Director Jin Ho? The tension between them seems counterproductive. Taewon's eyes widened. How do you know about internal command issues? Yuna smiled. You just confirmed it for me. Body language and vocal stress patterns are very revealing across species. For instance, your left ridge flattens when you're surprised. For the first time, Taewon looked genuinely unsettled. You are analyzing us. It's what I do, Yuna said simply. Humans may not have your technology, but we've mastered psychological adaptation. It's how we survived on Earth despite not being the strongest species. When the session ended 3 hours later, Taewon had failed again to extract useful information. Worse, he had inadvertently revealed details about the ship's destination and the size of the Ricari fleet. As Young Mi escorted Yuna back to her cell, the guard whispered, Is it true you predicted the power fluctuation in Sector 7? The engineering team was impressed. Just an educated guess, Yuna replied modestly. Physical systems often follow predictable patterns. Once alone in her cell, Yuna carefully removed the thin metal strip she'd worked loose from her food tray. Using techniques she'd observed from watching the guards access control panels, she began modifying the small environmental control unit they'd given her. The tables were turning. The Ricari had brought her aboard to extract Earth's secrets, but Yuna was learning far more about them than they were about her. And now, with a crude but functional transmitter nearly complete, she was ready for the next phase of her plan. Commander Daeho stared at the security footage in disbelief. The human woman sat cross-legged on the floor of her cell, eyes closed, seemingly meditating. But the ship's sensors told a different story. Explain this, he demanded, pointing at the data readings. Science Director Jin Ho adjusted his viewing. That's impossible. The environmental control unit is transmitting data bursts. To where? Fleet Commander Sun Wu asked sharply. Security Chief Yunji checked her monitors. Internal communications only so far, but the pattern suggests she's testing frequencies. She's modified our technology? Daeho's voice rose. How could she understand it? She watches everything, Jinho said quietly. I've reviewed the surveillance records. When Officer Young Mi enters the security code, when maintenance checks life support systems, when food is delivered, she observes it all. Sun Wu slammed, his fist on the console. I want her moved to high security isolation immediately. No contact with any crew. Too late, Yunji said, pointing to another screen. Look at the guard rotation logs. She's had contact with 17 different crew members, and she said something different to each one. What kinds of things? Jinho asked. Yunji pulled up a report. To Engineering Officer Hai Wan, she mentioned that our quantum drive emits a specific radiation pattern. To Medical Technician Do Hyun, she correctly identified his home region by his accent. To Junior Commander Bomi, she expressed admiration for our ship design, suggesting we must have overcome specific technical challenges that our scientists had indeed faced. She's gathering intelligence, Sun Wu growled. And building relationships, Jinho added. Several crew members have reported positive impressions of her. Change the guard rotation, Daeho ordered. Only use officers with advanced psychological training. That limits us to 3 crew members, Yunji pointed out. Then use those 3. Officer Do-hyun approached Yuna's cell cautiously. His orders were clear. Deliver food, speak nothing, leave immediately. Yuna smiled when she saw him. Hello, Medical Technician Do-hyun. How is your mother's health improving? Do-hyun froze. He had mentioned his mother's illness only once while speaking to another crew member outside her cell. He hadn't known the human could hear them. I cannot engage in conversation, he said stiffly. I understand. Yuna nodded sympathetically. Rules must be followed. I was just concerned since spinal treatments can be complicated. Our medical technology focuses heavily on regenerative therapy for similar conditions. Do-hyun hesitated. His mother's condition was indeed spinal-related. Your species has effective treatments? For many cases, yes, Yuna said. The research papers are publicly available. I'd be happy to explain the basics as one medical professional to another. You work in medicine? Do-hyun's professional curiosity overcame his caution. My psychological research overlaps with neurological treatment, Yuna explained. The connection between mental state and physical healing is powerful. 20 minutes later, Do-hyun left with detailed notes on human regenerative medicine approaches and had inadvertently revealed the ship's current location and trajectory. The human has accessed our language database, Jinho reported during the emergency command meeting. Impossible, Taewon protested. She has no computer access. Yet she's speaking basic Rakari phrases to the guards, Yunji countered. And she correctly identified our star charts during yesterday's interrogation session. Commander Daeho paced the room. We need to change our approach. No more interrogation. We simply contain her until we rendezvous with the main fleet. There's more, Jinho added reluctantly. The routine biological scans we've been conducting, she somehow encoded data into the return signal. When we scan her, information is being transmitted. To where? Sun Wu demanded. We're not certain, Jinho admitted, but the pattern suggests communication preparation. She's trying to contact Earth, Daeho realized with horror. With our own equipment, Yunji confirmed, turned against us. In her cell, Yuna worked quickly. The metal strip she'd salvaged had become a crude tool that let her access the cell's hidden circuitry. The Rakari technology was advanced but followed logical principles she could deduce. Each time they scanned her, she learned more about their systems. Each conversation with a guard provided new information. She had mapped most of the ship's layout. Through casual comments and observations, she knew they had discovered her communications attempts. That was fine. It was merely a distraction. Her real progress was understanding the ship's automated protocols, safety overrides, emergency procedures. Officer Young Mai appeared at her cell door, looking troubled. The commanders are arguing about you, she said quietly. Fleet Commander Sun Wu wants to place you in stasis for the journey. Yuna nodded calmly. I expected that. They're afraid. Of one human? Young Mi looked skeptical. Of what I represent, Yuna explained. Unexpected adaptation. Tell me, Young Mi, have you noticed the power fluctuations in Section 4? They seem to be increasing. Young Mi frowned. How could you know about those? The lights dim briefly whenever they occur, and the security panel by my cell shows a warning light. Young Mi checked the panel, her back to Yuna. I don't see any warning. In that moment of distraction, Yuna pressed the final sequence she'd programmed into her modified environmental control. Throughout the ship, minor system alerts began triggering simultaneously, none dangerous alone, but together, they would create just enough confusion for her. Next move. The advantage of being human, Yuna had discovered, wasn't superior strength or technology. It was humanity's endless adaptability and pattern recognition, skills honed through thousands of years of survival against all odds, and the Ricari were about to learn exactly what that meant. Alarms blared throughout the Ricari vessel. Red. Emergency lights flashed in every corridor. The ship's computer announced warnings in multiple languages. Atmospheric pressure anomaly detected in sectors 2 through 7. Gravitational stabilizers operating at reduced capacity. Security protocols temporarily suspended for emergency response. Commander Dae-ho rushed into the control center, his normally composed demeanor shattered. Status report. Multiple system failures across the ship, reported Junior Officer Minho. Environmental controls are showing dangerous fluctuations. Safety protocols have automatically unlocked all compartments to prevent crew from being trapped. Including the containment cells? Commander Dae-ho asked, his voice rising. Security Chief Yun-ji checked her monitors and gasped. The humans. Cell is empty. Fleet Commander Sun-woo slammed his scaled fist on the console. Find her. Lock down all shuttle bays and escape pods. Communications are also compromised, Science Director Jin-ho added, his fingers moving rapidly over the control panel. Someone has accessed our internal network. The human couldn't possibly understand our technology, Taewon insisted. Yet she does, Jin-ho replied grimly. The system logs show someone is redirecting security cameras and locking doors remotely. How? Demanded Sun-woo. Jin-ho looked up, his expression troubled. She's using Officer Young-mi's access codes. Yuna moved quickly through the ship's corridors, keeping to the shadows. The modified environmental control unit from her cell now served as a crude but effective hacking device. Young-mi's access codes, which Yuna had memorized by watching. The guard input them daily, provided initial entry. From there, she had improvised. 2 Ricari guards ran past her hiding spot, responding to a false alarm she had triggered in a distant section of the ship. Yuna slipped out and continued in the opposite direction. According to the ship's schematics she had pieced together from conversations and observations, the emergency shuttle bay was 3 levels down. The main hangar would be too heavily guarded, but the smaller emergency vessels might be accessible. As she turned a corner, she nearly collided with medical technician Do Hyun. His eyes widened in shock. You should not be here, he whispered, looking nervously over his shoulder. I need to return to my world, Yuna said calmly. Your leaders plan to bring an invasion fleet to Earth. I must warn my people. Do Hyun hesitated. The commanders said you were dangerous. I'm just one human trying to protect my home, Yuna replied. You understand protecting family, don't you? Like your mother, you're so worried about. Do Hyun's inner conflict showed clearly on his face. Finally, he nodded toward a side passage. The emergency shuttles are that way. But you'll need override codes for launch. Thank you, Yuna said sincerely. The human medical information I gave you is real, by the way. I hope it helps your mother. In the command center, chaos reigned. She's moving toward the emergency shuttle bay, Yoon-ji reported. Security teams are en route to intercept. Shut down all launch systems, ordered Commander Dae-ho. I'm trying, Jin-ho replied frantically. But she's created cascading system. Failures. If I shut down launch controls, it might affect life support. How could one primitive human cause this much damage? Sun-woo demanded. She's not primitive, Jinho said quietly. We severely underestimated her species' adaptability. On the main screen, they watched as Yuna reached the shuttle bay. 3 security officers confronted her, weapons drawn. Surrender immediately, the lead officer commanded. To everyone's surprise, Yuna raised her hands peacefully. I understand. Your position. You're following orders. But ask yourselves, has your leadership been honest about this mission? The officers exchanged uncertain glances. What do you mean? One asked. Why wasn't your medical team briefed about human biology before capturing specimens? Why wasn't your scientific division consulted about Earth's technological level? Commander Sunwoo is risking your lives based on incomplete intelligence. In the command center, Sunwoo roared with fury. Stop listening to her. Arrest her now. But through the video feed, they could see the security team's resolve wavering. You know I'm right, Yuna continued calmly. I've cooperated with your examinations. I've shared knowledge freely. Have I shown any hostility, any aggression? I simply need to return home, to my family, just like you all have families. From the shuttle bay viewport, Yuna watched the Ricari, ship growing smaller as her stolen craft accelerated toward Earth. She had expected more pursuit, but something, perhaps her words to the security team, perhaps the chaos she had created, had given her the precious minutes needed for escape. The shuttle contained a wealth of alien technology and data. In her pocket was the small device she had built from spare parts, containing complete recordings of her interrogation sessions and the information she had gleaned about Ricari weapons, shields, and tactical weaknesses. Earth would have time to prepare now. The Ricari would return, but humanity wouldn't be helpless. As the blue planet grew larger in her viewport, Yuna allowed herself a small smile. The Ricari had made one critical error. They had assumed technological superiority meant complete advantage. They hadn't understood that humans' greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their science. It was their endless capacity to adapt, learn, and overcome. Commander Daeho's final transmission still echoed in the shuttle's communication system. Ricari Dominion Fleet Command. Update all protocols immediately. Classification of Earth upgraded to extreme threat level. Warning to all vessels. Never attempt to interrogate a human.